In September, the air still brings a bit of summer heat, but when the wind blows over the lakeside, it always brings a sense of joy. Yang Guang fell from the branches of the old banyan tree and fell on Lin Ruochen's painting board. He lowered his head and focused on outlining the line. The pencil beside his hand had been cut to a small piece. On the painting board is the silhouette of a lake. A blurry figure can be seen from a distance, with long hair light and light, like some familiar figure. "Hey, Ruochen, who are you painting this?" Zhang Haoren sat on the grass beside him, holding a bottle of Bingqiu, who had just bought from a small sales department, and his language was full of hymns. "Are you painting your spiritual goddess?" Lin Ruochen's hand tilted, and his ears were instantly red. He didn't raise his head, pretending to adjust the painting carefully, muttering in a low voice, "Don't say anything, I'm just casual painting." "Can you just paint so seriously?" Zhang Haoren smiled and glanced at the painting board. "Why do I look familiar with this back? Is it, who in the literature department next door?" "Zhang Haoren." Lin Ruochen finally raised his head and glared at him, with a hint of shame and anger in his voice. "If you say something, I won't do it anymore. Go back to the dormitory to play." Okay, I won't say it." Zhang Haoren surrendered, and still couldn't help laughing. "But seriously, brother, your secret is too obvious. She is all in the painting. When should I be brave enough to express my thoughts?" Lin Ruochen didn't answer. His eyes fell back to the painting board, and his fingers clenched the pen involuntarily. Confession? These two words are like some taboo to him, and even if you think about it, your heartbeat will be aggravated. He knew Su Xiaoqing since high school. At that time, she was a literary committee member and always organized activities in the class with a smile. He was just a little transparent that was almost invisible. The only thing he could do was to look at her and smile secretly, then hide those pictures in his heart, and then draw them out. Now they have all been admitted to the same university. Although they have different departments, the campus is not big, so they will still encounter it occasionally. Every time she saw Su Xiaoqing walking around the lake or flirting books in the library, Lin Ruochen would stop unconsciously, pretending that she was just passing by, but in fact her eyes would have been unable to leave her. He even secretly wrote a book full of her shadow. She was smiling and running on the playground, her face reading poems on the silhouette of the literature, and her hair that accidentally fell off while writing with her head down. But he has never intended to let anyone see these paintings, let alone Su Xiaoqing himself. "Ruochen, really, I think you have to try." Zhang Haoren took a sip of kale and became serious. "Su Xiaoqing is very easy to stay with. If you don't say, how did she know you like her? If you drag it on, you will cry without even crying." Lin Ruochen lowered his head and said nothing, and he felt like he was gently snatched by something in his heart. Of course he knew that Zhang Haoren had a reasonable point, but some things could not be done with just knowing them. He was afraid that even his friends would not be able to say that he would not be able to do it, that she would smile with awkwardly and refuse, that those thoughts painted on the paper would turn into a joke. At this moment, a crisp smile came from afar, as if the wind was shaking lightly in the air. Lin Ruochen looked up and saw that Su Xiaoqing was walking with a few classmates near the lake. She was wearing a blue dress, her hair was casually slim into a low horsetail, and the sun fell on her face, and her eyes slid into a beautiful crescent shape when she smiled. "Yeah, say Chow Chow is here." Zhang Haoren hit Lin Ruochen with his elbow, in a low voice, "The opportunity is here, do you want to go and say hello?" "No." Lin Ruochen quickly lowered his head, pretending to install and organize the painting board, and there was a little panic in his voice. I haven't finished painting yet." "What kind of paintings are you painting? Everyone is here." Zhang Haoren hated the iron for being out of steel, so he simply stood up and shouted in the direction of the lake, "Xiaoqing! Here!" Lin Ruochen was shocked and almost dropped the pen to the ground. He couldn't stop it, so he could only watch Su Xiaoqing turn over, look at them here, and then smiled and slapped his hand. "Haoren, are you fucking?" Su Xiaoqing walked closer a few steps, and the sound was clear, like the wind of summer, with a comfortable temperature. Her eyes swept over Zhang Haoren and finally fell on Lin Ruochen, with a curiosity in her eyes. Ruochen, are you painting again? What are you painting? Can you see it? Lin Ruochen's buzzing sound in his brain, his face instantly burned. He hurriedly hugged the painting board and said in a daze, "No, nothing, it's just casually painted, not good looking." Su Xiaoqing curled her lips, as if she was a little disappointed, but she soon laughed again. "Okay, let me see it when you finish painting. I remember you were very good in high school, and the teacher said you were an aesthetic genius. Where is it?" Lin Ruochen muttered in a low voice, buried his head lower, and his heart became a group because of her award. Zhang Haoren, who was standing beside him, couldn't help rolling his eyes as he looked like this person, thinking, why is this person so able to be decorated? One is obviously very fond of it, but he insists on dressing it as if nothing happened. The other is full of the other, and he still has to pretend to be just an ordinary friend. He coughed and tried to break the awkward atmosphere. "Xiqing, what are you talking about just now? Are you laughing so happily?" "Oh, it's nothing. It's just about the art exhibition next week." Su Xiaoqing turned his head and looked at Zhang Haoren, with a little excited in his language. "We have joined forces with the Department of Literature and Art to hold an event this time. I heard that there will be many students' works on display, and there will be competitions. Ruochen, will you participate?" Lin Ruochen was stunned for a moment, but he didn't expect the topic to turn to him. He hesitated for a moment and pointed. "Well, it should happen, the instructor said we will try it." "That's great!" Su Xiaoqing's eyes lit up and she clapped her hands. "I'm looking forward to seeing your paintings. Maybe you can get a big prize and give us the art director's face." "It's not that bad," Lin Ruochen said in a short voice, and the corners of his mouth were unconsciously waving. Her expectations were like a small stone, and it penetrated the lake in his heart, causing round after circle of ripples. At the same time, on the campus road on the other side, Zhou Manting was walking around and looking through it, with a meaningful smile on her face. She just came out of the dormitory and was holding the diary that Su Xiaoqing accidentally fell on the table. She was just trying to get it back, but she accidentally looked at a few pages and found that Su Xiaoqing's little thoughts on someone was full of Su Xiaoqing's thoughts on someone. Xiaoqing, you said you didn't like anyone, but the diary was written like a novel." Zhou Manting said to herself, and a bad smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. "Lin Ruochen. I remember this name. It seems that I have to help you, otherwise when will you hide this secret?" She closed her diary and accelerated her pace towards the lake. She had already begun to think about how to make a coincidence so that neither of them would be installed again. Far away, she saw that Su Xiaoqing was able to talk to Lin Ruochen and others, so she deliberately slowed down and stood nowhere to observe for a while. "This guy is really good to stand together." Zhou Manting muttered in her heart, and immediately shook her head, but Xiaoqing's mouth is as hard as something. I guess she can hold it in a hurry if she doesn't push her. The wind blows over the lake, bringing the rustling sound of leaves. The conversation between Su Xiaoqing and Lin Ruochen continued, and was often interrupted by Zhang Haoren's spy on the subject, and the atmosphere was not too awkward. Lin Ruochen secretly looked up at Su Xiaoqing several times. Every time he looked at each other, his heartbeat would be beaten, and then he lowered his head tightly, pretending to focus on the painting board in his hand. Su Xiaoqing is actually not that good. She smiled naturally on the surface, but her heart was already in trouble. Every time she talks to Lin Ruochen, she has to be careful, for fear that she would accidentally reveal some horses. She liked him, and she had liked him since high school, but how could she have the nerve to say this? Once he doesn't like himself, even if he feels embarrassed, then isn't she unable to do anything with her friends? "Xiqing, why are you stupid?" Zhang Haoren suddenly opened his mouth, with a little teasing in his language. "I just chatted happily, why did I suddenly stop talking?" No, I'm not dazed." Su Xiaoqing came back to her senses, and hurriedly held her hands, her face slightly red. "I was just thinking about the art exhibition. By the way, Ruochen, how many paintings will you show at that time?" Lin Ruochen was stunned by the question. The first picture in his brain was the secret book. But of course he couldn't take out the paintings, so he said casually, "I haven't decided yet, I should, 1 or 2 paintings. Then I have to take a good look." Su Xiaoqing smiled, his eyes flashing. "I don't know much about beauty, but your paintings always make people feel particularly comfortable, as if there is a story." Lin Ruochen felt warm in his heart, and the old saying was still on his lips, "It's not that good. Don't have too much expectations." They chatted, and the time passed without thinking. The sun is slanted westward, the lake is dyed with gold, and some students are already busy in the art gallery far away, preparing for the next week's exhibition. Lin Ruochen put away the painting board and prepared to go back to the dormitory with Zhang Haoren, while Su Xiaoqing also said that he wanted to go back to prepare the manuscript of Xiaolong in literature. "Ruochen, that's the day of the exhibition." Su Xiaoqing rushed forward and shook his hand, his smile as bright as the waves on the lake. "Well, see." Lin Ruochen pointed, his voice so low that he could hardly hear it. He watched her back move away, his hands pressing on the painting board without hesitating, and there was a suffocation in his heart. Zhang Haoren looked around and couldn't help but sigh. "Brother, when will you catch up with someone at this speed?" Lin Ruochen ignored him and just silently hugged the painting board even tighter. He knew that the art exhibition might be an opportunity, but he had not yet thought about whether to paint the secret in his heart and show it to her. On the other side, after Su Xiaoqing returned to the dormitory, as soon as she entered the door, she saw Zhou Manting sitting in front of her desk, holding the familiar diary in her hand, and a meaningful smile on her face. "Manting, are you fucking?" Su Xiaoqing was shocked and hurriedly went over and wanted to come back. "How can you see my things at will?" Hey, don't be anxious." Zhou Manting smiled and hid, shaking her diary. "I'm just curious. Who makes you write so touchingly?" "To be honest, Xiaoqing, what are you going to tell Lin Ruochen?" Su Xiaoqing's face turned red with a swish, biting her lips and glaring at her. "Don't bother. I'm not going to tell him." "Okay, stubborn." Zhou Manting said with a slight voice and gave her the diary, "But I can remind you that the art exhibition is a good opportunity. If you don't take the initiative, don't blame me for helping you take the initiative." Su Xiaoqing didn't say anything, but just sat on the bed with her diary in her arms, feeling awkward. She flipped through the diary and looked at the page she wrote recently. "I saw his painting again today, and it was still so peaceful, but I always think there was a story in his painting. If one day he could show me the painting, how good would it be?" She bit her lip, closed her diary, and saw a silk silence in her eyes. On the day of the art exhibition, maybe there is really something different, right? She didn't know and didn't dare to think too much, but just felt that the string in her heart seemed to be gently swayed again. It took a few days to pass quickly, and the day before the art exhibition. The campuses of Southern University are filled with a warm atmosphere everywhere. The art gallery is filled with 5 colors of publicity posters. Students are shuttled through 2 places, some are busy moving picture frames, and some are discussing exhibition details. The wind on the lakeside is still so gentle, and when blown, it brings a faint fragrance of osmanthus, making people unable to help but suck a few more. Lin Ruochen almost didn't sleep well in the past few days, and the dormitory lights were always bright until midnight. He sat at the desk, his hands were filled with paintings, and a bottle of half-drink mineral water was placed at the corner of the table. He kept wondering whether to take out a painting in the secret book for display. Every painting in the book contains his intentions, which paints various patterns of Su Xiaoqing, her smile, her side of writing with her lower head, and even the moment when she stood by the lake and looked at the scenery without any hesitation. He knew that if these paintings were taken out, people might be able to see the clues, especially Su Xiaoqing himself. But if he didn't take it, he felt that he had missed an opportunity that would let her see her own wishes. "Ruochen, why are you not sleeping yet?" Zhang Haoren got up from the bed, rubbed his eyes and yawned, glanced at the draft on the table. "Are you still choosing paintings in the middle of the night? Isn't it just an exhibition? Isn't it enough to just choose a few photos?" "It's not a question that I chose at will." Lin Ruochen muttered in a low voice, his fingers rubbing the corner of the painting unconsciously. "Many people will watch this exhibition. the instructor said that there are also awards, so I have to be serious. It's a good thing, but don't force yourself too tightly. Zhang Haoren walked over, patted his shoulder, glanced at the painting casually, and his eyes suddenly stopped. Wait, this painting, isn't this Su Xiaoqing? Lin Ruochen's heart skipped a beat and hurriedly closed the painting, and his face instantly reddish like a ripe tomato. He told Baba, You've missed it. This is casual painting, nothing special. Can the casual painting be so similar? Zhang Haoren raised his eyebrows and showed a bad smile on his face. Brother, I tell you that if this painting is really taken out and displayed, Su Xiaoqing will know it is her at a glance. Have you thought about it? Isn't this just a confession? Who said I'm going to take it out? Lin Ruochen hurriedly replied, with a little shame in his voice, I'm just practicing, I don't plan to show it to anyone. Okay, you're stubborn. Zhang Haoren said with a slight voice, turn back to the bed, and lie down before saying the next sentence, but I think this is a good opportunity. If you don't say that, she will never know your intentions. Think about it before the exhibition begins tomorrow. Lin Ruochen didn't answer, but just looked down at the painting in his hand, and his heart was in numbness. He knew that Zhang Haoren had made sense, but when he thought that Su Xiaoqing might see these paintings, his palms were covered in sweat. He was afraid that she would be embarrassed, afraid that she would smile and say, this picture is so beautiful, but we are still friends, and even more afraid that he would not be able to keep this vague distance. On the other side, Su Xiaoqing's dormitory was not calm either. Zhou Manting has been around her for the past few days, always talking about art exhibitions, and sometimes mentioning a few words about Lin Ruochen, which made Su Qing feel excited. She sat at the desk, holding a pen in her hand, and wrote a few lines of words on the diary that was opened in front of her, which was terrible by her pen. Shi Qing, what are you doing? Zhou Manting got off the bed and looked at it. She couldn't help laughing. Would you write a diary or a romantic book? Who can understand this way with Wu Cheng? I haven't written anything. Su Xiaoqing hurriedly closed the diary, her face was red and sniffed. I just remember things at will. I still have to help with the exhibition tomorrow. I have to think about the manuscript. Article? Who's the chaotic? Zhou Manting rolled her eyes and sat next to her, her lingering filled with teasing. I think you are thinking about how to meet Lin Ruochen tomorrow. To be honest, Xiaoqing, your secret is almost a campus legend. When can you make some progress? Manting, don't say anything. Su Xiaoqing glared at her, and her heartbeat accelerated a few points without any conflict. Ruochen and I are ordinary friends, so there is nothing to be secretly confused. Will ordinary friends write a diary's ordinary thought? Zhou Manting raised her eyebrows and smiled meaningfully. I have seen it all. The words you wrote in your diary are so sore that my teeth are almost lost. The exhibition tomorrow is a good opportunity. You will definitely encounter activities in the Department of Literature and Arts. I will help you create a little coincidence, how about it? No. Su Xiaoqing hurriedly held her hands, and there was a panic in her voice. Don't come, I will deal with it myself. Treat? When will it be done? Zhou Manting sighed and said seriously. Shi Qing, I know you are afraid of being rejected, but if you don't try, how can you know the result? Lin Ruochen likes you too? You can't hide it all, right? Su Xiaoqing bit her lip and didn't say anything, but just looked down at the diary on the table. She was afraid that her words would break the subtle balance now, and that Lin Ruochen would reject her with that gentle and remote language. But Zhou Manting's words were like a small pebble, and it penetrated into her heart, causing circles of ripples. Wani, does he like himself too? As soon as this thought pops up, her heart is incredible. Okay, I won't force you. Zhou Manting patted her shoulder, stood up and stretched her waist. It depends on the situation tomorrow. Anyway, I think you will have to pierce the paper in this window sooner or later. Go to bed, you still have to get up early to help you tomorrow. Su Xiaoqing glanced a little and turned off the lights, but it was still a mess in his brain. She closed her eyes, Her whole brain was the face that Lin Ruochen focused on when painting, and his gentle and somewhat shy eyes when he occasionally raised his head. What's really different tomorrow? She didn't know, so she could only sleep slowly with such a nervous mood. The next morning, the art exhibition officially opened. The art gallery was moving, and students were shuttled through various booths, with the air filled with the smell of oil paint and paper. The long corridors filled with various paintings and photography works, as well as handwritten poems and short stories from classmates in the Department of Literature. When they are matched, they have a different flavor. Lin Ruochen arrived at the venue early in the morning, holding a few pictures in his hand and a tight face. In the end, he didn't dare to take out the paintings and chose a few landscape paintings and quiet paintings. Although they were not particularly outstanding, they were at least safe. He stood in front of his booth, tidied up the frame with his head down, and looked up at the surroundings from time to time, as if he was looking forward to something or fearing something. "Ruochen, it's quite early." Zhang Haoren rushed over from the crowd, holding a bottle of drinks in his hand, and said with a smile, "Are you ready to paint? How about you, are you confident to win the prize?" "No confidence." Lin Ruochen said softly, his eyes swept over his paintings, and his eyes were filled with a sense of loss. "These paintings are just the same. What's the average? You're at your best in the department." Zhang Haoren patted his shoulder and said in a low voice, "But I still think you should take out that picture. Maybe Su Xiaoqing looks at it, and Lima will understand your feelings." "Don't mention it." Lin Ruochen browed, with a little helpless voice, "I don't want her to see it. What if she feels embarrassed? What awkwardness. If you like it, you like it. What's the embarrassment?" Zhang Haoren rolled his eyes and was about to say a few more words. Suddenly, his eyes suddenly glanced at the corner of his mouth, and a bad smile appeared. "Okay, Chow Chow is here, you are here." Lin Ruochen looked over his video, and his heartbeat instantly missed. Su Xiaoqing was wearing a white shirt and a blue denim skirt. Her hair was casually scattered on her shoulders, and she was walking into the long corridor with several classmates in the literature department. She held a notebook in her hand, as if she was preparing to record something, with a habitual smile on her face, and her eyes were bright, as if she could illuminate the air around her. "Xiaoqing, here!" Zhang Haoren shouted without hesitation and said loudly, not giving Lin Ruochen the time to react. Su Xiaoqing heard the sound and turned around and saw a surprised expression on her face. She walked over quickly, her eyes first fell on Zhang Haoren, then turned to Lin Ruochen, and said with a smile, "You are here quite early. Ruochen, where's your painting? Can I see it?" Lin Ruochen felt nervous and hurriedly lowered his head to pretend to organize the painting frame. His voice was a little loud, "Just, right here, but there is nothing good to look at, it's all ordinary paintings." "What's the ordinary thing?" "I think it's pretty good." Su Xiaoqing came over and looked at the several pictures hanging on the booth seriously, with appreciation in his eyes. The scenery around the lake is painted with a special artistic conception, and it feels like you can hear the sound of water. "You are really amazing." Thank you, thank you." Lin Ruochen said in a low voice, his ears were so sharp that they were about to drip blood. He secretly looked up at her and saw that she was looking at the painting with great concentration. Her heart was both tight and warm. He wished he could have courage and told her that there was actually her shadow in these paintings, but when he heard it, he swallowed it back. At this moment, Zhou Manting came out of nowhere, holding a promotional bill in her hand and walked over with a smile. "Qing, why did you come here? Didn't you say you wanted to help you issue orders?" "Oh, right, I almost forgot." Su Xiaoqing patted her brain, turned her head to look at Lin Ruochen, with apologies in her language. "Ruochen, I'll go and have a meeting first, and come and see your painting later." "It's okay, you can do it." Lin Ruochen pointed, his voice so low that he could hardly hear it. He watched her leave with Zhou Manting, and felt an indescribable loss in his heart. She was right in front of her, but he still felt that he was far away from her. "Brother, the opportunity is right in front of you. Why don't you catch it?" Zhang Haoren said in a low voice with a look of an iron that was not steel. It's just so good in the atmosphere. You just say this picture has a story, don't you hear it? What are you saying? Lin Ruochen glared at him, turned around and continued to organize the frame, and his heart was in a group because of his strife. He knew he was young, but some things he could not do just by wanting to do. The exhibition was held until noon, and more people were present at the venue, and the atmosphere was warm to the top. Lin Ruochen's booth came to Lin Ruochen's booth, including classmates in the same department and students from other departments. Everyone's evaluation of his paintings was good, and a teacher even came over and said that his paintings were very powerful, so that he could continue to play. This made Lin Ruochen relax a little, but his eyes still flew towards the crowd from time to time, as if he was looking forward to someone's figure. Su Xiaoqing was so busy that she was too busy to communicate. After publishing the publicity bill, she was taken to help arrange the booth of the Department of Literature, and sweat broke out on the top. She wanted to sneak back to Lin Ruochen to take a look, but she was always dragged by Zhou Manting, which made her anxious. "Manting, did you do it on purpose?" Su Xiaoqing finally couldn't help it, and she shook her sweat and stared at Zhou Manting. "I just wanted to go and see Ruochen's paintings. Why is it so difficult?" "Hey, what's the hurry?" Zhou Manting smiled like a fox, holding a bottle of water in her hand and handed her to her. "I'm not helping you to keep his appetite. Man, it can't be obtained too easily, otherwise I won't cherish it." "What a mess." Su Xiaoqing took the water without any hesitation, took a sip, and her heart jumped faster because of her words. Of course she didn't want to sniff her appetite, she just wanted to look at his paintings and say a few more words to him. Even if she just stood beside him, she felt like she was lying in her heart. "Okay, I'm almost busy, go." Zhou Manting finally relaxed her mouth and pushed her. "But I can remind you, don't just read the paintings, talk a few more sentences, and you might be surprised." Su Xiaoqing ignored her teasing, tidied up her clothes, took a deep breath, and walked towards Lin Ruochen's booth. Far away, she saw him standing next to the frame, lowering his head and talking to a classmate, his face looking particularly gentle in the sun. Her heart warmed and her pace unconsciously accelerated a few points. "Ruochen." She walked to the booth and smiled and slapped her hand. "I'm done, and I can finally take a look at your paintings." Lin Ruochen raised his head and saw her with a flash of surprise in his eyes. He clicked a little, and his voice was still so low. "Well, just watch it, there is nothing special." "I said there is nothing special." Su Xiaoqing curled her lips and looked closer at a quiet painting, with her eyes full of appreciation. "The colors of this painting are particularly beautiful, and I feel that every detail is attentive. You are really great." "Thank you," Lin Ruochen said in a low voice, and his heart became a group because of her award. He hesitated for a moment, finally got a little courage and asked, "Xiqing, how are you, the booth of your literature department? Have you ever written any works to participate in the exhibition?" "Yes." Su Xiaoqing's eyes lit up, and she turned her head to look at him, with a little excited in her language. "I wrote a short story. Although it's not so good, I still threw it in. Do you want to go and take a look later?" "Okay." Lin Ruochen pointed his head and the corners of his mouth were hunched. He actually didn't know much about literature, but as long as it was hers, he wanted to see it. Even if it was just a few lines of words, it would make him feel closer to her. The two of them chatted, and the atmosphere relaxed. The sunlight fell from the glass top of the long corridor and fell on them, as if it was a layer of warm light for this moment. Lin Ruochen secretly glanced at her for a few moments, and there was a throbbing in his heart that could not be said. He wished that time could stop at this moment, but he also knew that some things would never change if he didn't say it. At this moment, a wind blew over and brought a painting to the booth and fell from the booth. Su Xiaoqing's eyes were quick and his hands were quick. He raised his waist and was about to give Lin Ruochen, but his eyes were unconsciously swept over the picture and was stunned. It was an unfinished painting, which was a girl's back on the lakeside, with her long hair light and light. Although she only had a few silhouettes, she realized at a glance that it was herself. "This is..." Su Xiaoqing's heart beats a beat, and she raised her head to look at Lin Ruochen. with an indeterminate sound, Ruochen, who is this? Lin Ruochen's face turned pale in an instant, and he quickly answered the draft with his hands and said in a daze, no one. It's just casual paintings, there's really nothing special. But his panic and red face had already sold him. Su Xiaoqing looked at him, with a complex emotion flashing in her eyes. She didn't ask anymore, but just said in a low voice, oh, that's pretty. The air became a little awkward for a moment, and neither of them said anything more. Lin Ruochen lowered his head and put the manuscript in his bag, feeling like a bunch of hemp lines. He knew that she might have seen it, but he dared not confirm or ask, so he could only pretend that nothing happened. Su Xiaoqing bit her lip, and her heart was as terrible. The back of that painting was obviously her, but why did Lin Ruochen paint her? Is it a coincidence, or, she dared not think about it, but there was a throbbing in her heart, as if something was growing quietly. Xiaoqing, didn't you say you wanted to take me to see your booth? Lin Ruochen finally opened his mouth, with a little cautious in his voice, now, go? Okay. Su Xiaoqing pointed, smiled reluctantly, and turned around and walked towards the booth of the Department of Literature. Her steps were a little confused, and she kept thinking about the painting, his eyes, and those words that had not been said. The crowd in the art gallery is still warm and the sun is still warm, but the atmosphere between them has a subtle change. Perhaps, this exhibition will really become a turnaround in their stories. The noise in the art gallery faded away, and the sun shone through the top of the glass and landed between Su Xiaoqing and Lin Ruochen's steps, as if he had a golden road for them. Su Xiaoqing walked in front, holding a notebook in her hand, and her steps were a little fast, as if she was covering her panic in her heart. Lin Ruochen followed behind, looking down at the tip of his feet, and the scene in her brain was still the scene when the painting was lifted up by her. His heart was beating hard, his palms were covered in sweat, and he wanted to find a place to diamond. It's here. Su Xiaoqing stopped and pointed to the booth of the Department of Literature. The sound was unnatural and quick. We mainly wrote poems and short stories here. It's not as visually stimulating as your Department of Arts, but it's also quite interesting. Lin Ruochen looked up and saw handwritten characters hanging on the booth, some neatly and some sloppy, with printed stories and poems posted next to it, and the corners were simply decorated with colorful signs. He clicked a little and said in a low voice, it's pretty good, it's very atmosphere. Su Xiaoqing smiled, pointing to one of the short stories on his face, with a little apology in his language, I wrote this article. Although it is not particularly good, it still took a lot of thought. Do you want to read it? Okay. Lin Ruochen pointed his head, leaned closer, and read the words on the paper carefully. It was a short story about youth and confusion, telling a girl who quietly liked a boy, but she never dared to say it, so she could only hide her thoughts in her diary. The language of the story is very simple, with a delicate emotion that makes Lin Ruochen feel tight. He thought of his paintings unconsciously, and his heart beat a few more points faster when he thought of those paintings that also had secrets. What's the case? Is it okay? Su Xiaoqing stood aside, pretending to ask indifferently, and secretly glanced at his expression. It's pretty good. Lin Ruochen said softly, paused for a moment, and then reiterated, it's very real, it seems like I've really experienced it. Su Xiaoqing's face turned red and he hurriedly said, no, it's just written casually, written blindly. She felt a chaotic group in her heart because this story was not written blindly at all. The feelings she wrote in were all her real feelings for Lin Ruochen over the years. She bit her lip and tried to transfer the title, yeah, are there any other activities in your art department? Did you hear that there is a lakeside party in the evening? Yeah, yes. Lin Ruochen pointed his head, his eyes turned from the paper, and looked at her, I will put smoke on the lake at night, and there will be a small prize ring. The instructor said that there will be several excellent works. Then you will definitely win the prize. Su Xiaoqing's eyes lit up, and she smiled and patted his shoulder. Your painting is so great, the instructor is disgusted. Maybe she will be surprised to say it tonight. Lin Ruochen was shaken by her smile, and the corners of his mouth were unconsciously waving, and he said in a low voice, I'll lend you auspicious words, but I don't have much hope. Stop being silly. Su Xiaoqing curled her lips, her voice filled with encouragement. I believe in you, really. The two of them chatted, and the atmosphere was relaxed just now, but the string in their hearts was still tight, as if they would be gently swayed at any time. Lin Ruochen secretly looked at her for a few moments, and repeatedly weighed whether to mention the painting, but every time he talked to her, he swallowed it back. Su Xiaoqing was also absent-minded, her eyes always hung at him, her whole brain was full of pictures of the back of the lake. Time flies so fast that it's evening. As the art exhibition activities gradually approached the end, students began to pack up their booths and prepare for a night party by the War Lake. Lin Ruochen and Su Xiaoqing helped to pack up their own things and made an appointment to go to the lake together. As the sun sets, the lake surface is dyed with a warm orange color, and the slight wind blows over it, bringing a sense of turmoil, making people feel extremely comfortable. There were many people gathered by the lake, with picnic pads hanging on the grass. Students sat and chatting in 3 or 3, and the air was filled with the smell of roasting and laughter. There are several classmates at the distance who are practicing music and preparing to play some light music, making the atmosphere relaxed and hot. Lin Ruochen and Su Xiaoqing found a seat near the lake and sat down. They had a few bottles of drinks and a small bag of snacks on their hands, all of which were bought by hand when they were just passing by the small sales department. The lake view tonight is so beautiful. Su Xiaoqing hugged her knees and looked at the lake far away, with a little emotion in her language. Every time I see such a scenery, I feel that my heart is very calm. Yes. Lin Ruochen pointed his head, his eyes also fell on the lake, and his voice was low. I have painted the scenery around the lake many times, and each time I have a different feeling. Su Xiaoqing turned to look at him, her eyes curious. Then which one is the most satisfying picture you have ever painted? Has anyone brought people in? Lin Ruochen felt a tight heart, and the first thing he had passed through his brain was the unfinished back view. He hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice, there is, but that picture has not been finished and has not been shown. Why don't you show it to others? Su Xiaoqing tilted her head, with a little squint in her language. Is it not well painted? Or, is there any secret? No, there's no secret. Lin Ruochen hurriedly, and his face turned red in an instant. I just thought it wasn't good enough, so I didn't take it out. Su Xiaoqing looked at his panic and suddenly a big guess appeared in her heart. She bit her lip and tried to ask, is that painting, the one that fell off today? What she painted was the back of the lake. Lin Ruochen was stunned, as if someone had touched his mind, and his face turned pale in an instant. He opened his mouth and wanted to deny it, but looking at her true eyes, he couldn't say anything. He looked down at the grass, his voice so low that he could hardly hear. Have you seen it? Su Xiaoqing's heartbeat was a beat, but he didn't expect that he would admit it directly. She was stunned for a moment and immediately said, in fact, I wasn't sure either. I just thought that my back looked a bit like me, so I asked casually. Don't think too much, maybe I was so passionate. It's not that you are self-indulgent. Lin Ruochen suddenly raised his head, with a hint of anxiety in his voice. That painting is really you. I have painted many paintings of you, all hidden in a painting book, and I have never dared to show it to anyone. I'm afraid you will feel strange or don't like it. The air calmed down in an instant, and Su Xiaoqing stared at him blankly, and a buzzing sound in his brain, as if something had exploded. She didn't expect Lin Ruochen to be so frank, let alone he had really painted so many of his paintings. Her face suddenly became hot, and her heart was so fast that it was about to jump out of her chest. Why do you want to paint me? She asked in a low voice, shaking in her voice. Lin Ruochen gritted his teeth, as if he had made up his mind, and raised his head and looked her eyes. Because I like you, Xiaoqing. I like you since high school, but I never dared to say that, for fear that you will feel troubled, for fear that we will not be able to do anything from our friends. So I can only draw these thoughts and hide them. Su Xiaoqing's eyes instantly turned red. She didn't expect that the answer she had been waiting for so many years would actually be heard at this moment. She looked down at her hands, and her voice choked. Ruochen, do you know? I like you too. I like you for a long time. I always thought you didn't feel anything about me, so I didn't dare to say it. I also wrote a diary, which was all about you, but I never thought I'd like to show you. Lin Ruochen was stunned, as if he hadn't heard her clearly, and asked blankly, you said, you like me too? Yes. Su Xiaoqing pointed, wiped the corners of his eyes, and smiled reluctantly. I thought you couldn't see it, but I didn't expect that we were so stupid and had been hiding for so long. Lin Ruochen looked at her, his eyes filled with disbelief, and immediately felt a huge joy. The corners of his mouth were unconsciously wafting up and said in a low voice, then, do we not have to hide it? Su Xiaoqing looked dark and smiled and said, well, don't hide it. The wind blows over the lake, bringing a fragrance of grass, and the smoke from far away suddenly illuminates the night sky and their faces. The two of them looked at each other, as if they had finally removed the burden in their hearts, and there was a kind of indescribable warmth in the air. Lin Ruochen hesitated for a moment, plucked up his courage and stretched out his hand, and held her hand lightly. Su Xiaoqing was stunned for a moment, then held his hand back, his face red like the sunset beside the sky. Xiqing, can I see your diary? Lin Ruochen asked softly, his eyes full of anticipation. Okay. Su Xiaoqing looked light and took out the diary from his bag and sent it to him, but you don't want to laugh at me after reading it. The things written in it are a bit sour. Lin Ruochen smiled, took the diary and flipped it out carefully. Each page is full of her thoughts, likes him, longing for the future, and those careful trials. He felt warm in his heart as if he had finally walked into her world. Ruochen, can you show me your painting? Su Xiaoqing bit her lip and asked in a low voice. Of course, Lin Ruochen pointed, took out the book from his bag and handed it to her, but I didn't have that good painting, don't bother me. Su Xiaoqing took the painting and flipped through the first page and was stunned. It was her back walking around the lake, painted delicately and gently, as if she could feel the slightest wind at that time. As she flipped through the page, every picture was her shadow, some were smiling, some were writing seriously, and even the wolf-like thing she accidentally fell down. She couldn't help laughing, her eyes glowing with a slight light. Ruochen, you're so good at painting. I didn't even realize that you've seen me so many times. Lin Ruochen slapped his head, his face was so red. I just couldn't help but want to paint it. After painting it, I feel closer to you. The two chatted, the night was getting deeper, and the smoke flowers by the lake were blooming one by one, reflecting their faces flashing and dark. The sounds far away are light and soft music, as if they are accompanied by the background sound for this moment. Su Xiaoqing leaned against Lin Ruochen's shoulder and said in a low voice, Ruochen, can we do something together in the future? For example, combine your paintings with my words and make a small book? Lin Ruochen's eyes lit up and he pointed, okay, I've wanted to try such a creation. If you write a story, I'll draw illustrations, and I might be able to create something interesting. Then let's just say it. Su Xiaoqing smiled and reached out to hold his hand and held his palm. We will work hard together, maybe we can still hold a small exhibition. Well, work hard together. Lin Ruochen pointed his head, his eyes full of gentleness. He looked at her smiling face, and his heart seemed to be filled with something, and he no longer had the nervousness and anxiety he had before. A few days later, the campus returned to its tranquility, and the popularity of the art exhibition seemed to be like a cloud of eyes, leaving only a bunch of photos and memories. Lin Ruochen and Su Xiaoqing began to prepare their cross-border creations together, often discussing on the lakeside or in library, and often making some small jokes. Zhang Haoren and Zhou Manting became their special assisting team. They complained that they finally started to talk, and at the same time they couldn't help but give them some advice. Ruochen, are you painting too slowly? Zhang Haoren leaned against the door of the dormitory, holding a bottle of Kale in his hand, and said with a smile, I have written 3 stories about Xiaoqing, and you have only drawn 2 illustrations. What's going on? What's the hurry? The paintings are coming slowly. Lin Ruochen didn't raise his head, and the paintings in his hand didn't stop. This is for Xiaoqing, you can't be a tiger. 1. It's so sweet that my toothache. Zhang Haoren rolled his eyes and turned away. Okay, you guys are sweeter, I won't beat you. On the other side, Su Xiaoqing was not idle in the dormitory, holding a notebook in her hand, and her brain was full of details of the story. Zhou Manting sat next to her, eating snacks and complained, Xiqing, why are your story full of pink bubbles? If you continue writing it, I'm afraid you will write it directly into a romance novel. No. Su Xiaoqing looked red and glared at her. Is this youth literature, do you understand? Okay, youth literature. Zhou Manting was very proud and smiled meaningfully, but seriously, what are you and Lin Ruochen now? Are there any new progress? It's pretty good. Su Xiaoqing lowered his head and his lips were waving. We plan to take out the work next month and participate in the school's creative exhibition, which should be quite interesting. 1. The business love is overwhelming. Zhou Manting clapped her hands, her vocals filled with chanting, then I have to go and see what kind of flowers you can make. Time flies so fast that it is time to turn around and creative exhibitions. The art gallery in the campus is getting hot again. The theme this time is youth and creation. The works of Lin Ruochen and Su Xiaoqing are arranged in a small corner. Although they are inconspicuous, they are arranged with great care. Together, they completed a collection of hand-drawn stories called Heartstrings and Unspoken, which contains 3 short stories written by Su Xiaoqing, each with carefully drawn illustrations by Lin Ruochen. The cover of the book was designed by them together, and they painted 2 figures on the lakeside, facing each other, and it seemed to be in harmony with each other. On the day of the exhibition, many people came to see it, including classmates and teachers. Everyone had high reviews for this book, saying that it had both literary details and aesthetic visual beauty. Lin Ruochen and Su Xiaoqing stood by the booth, listening to everyone's awards, smiling on their faces, and their eyes were filled with satisfaction. Xiaoqing, we really did it. Lin Ruochen said in a low voice, turning his head to look at her, with light flashing in his eyes. Yes. Su Xiao was smiling and laughed loudly. This is the beginning. In the future, we can do more and record our youth together. The wind blows over the lake, bringing a familiar fragrance of osmanthus, and the sun falls on them, as if it is a warm sentence for this moment. The exhibition continues, and the laughter and controversy of the crowd are not absolutely heard, and their future is like this lake, calm and full of endless possibilities.